some form. Charlie Gills there from Inception Group. Thank you. Now, businesses in the UK's coastal towns are expected to open for business come the end of the summer. Following the government's easing of some lockdown restrictions, it's likely that potential customers could return long before then. So, do those companies which rely on tourism to survive feel comfortable balancing safety with the need to get business back to normal? Natalie Moore is the owner of the Pickwick Inn, which is in Padstow in Cornwall, a huge tourist destination all year round. She joins me now. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. It's going to be an interesting couple of months for you, I would imagine, in Padstow, in terms of the government has pretty much said people can travel to beaches and these hotspots now, but it's less clear in terms of opening the hospitality industry. That's expected to happen later in the summer. How are you going to balance that? Because obviously, you know, as a business, you are shut and you need to pay the bills.
Yeah, it is. It's a balancing act, and obviously there's been some confusion with, what's acceptable, and it is a bit of a concern, obviously, for residents here about people travelling down, and the big responsibility we have in this industry to keep people safe while trying to balance keeping the business going. Personally, in our business, we're very blessed. We have a big outside area, so I'm hoping that potentially we can keep things going on that front. But the key to this is just the versatility of businesses, and unfortunately, it's very much down to circumstance, and some businesses just aren't going to be able to uphold the social distancing situation, and it's going to put an enormous strain on. And it just won't be viable.
Natalie, how have you been operating since lockdown came in? Because obviously, as lockdown came in, it was just as the weather started to turn. It would have been the start of your really busy season. We're now heading into that. What's been happening? Have you been offering takeaway services? Have you managed to be creative in what you can do? Or have you literally just had to shut your doors?
Well, we started with it was Mother's Day. We had about 300 guests booked for the Mothering Sunday, which is always a massive day for us, and it sort of kickstarts the season. So on that Sunday, we did offer a takeaway service just to satisfy customers that had already booked. But with our particular business, it's not really viable. We're off the beaten track. It would involve keeping staff off furlough, which, obviously then the viability of how much you'd take, you have to weigh that up. So it's a tricky one. So basically after that, we made the decision to close. Also, we've got vulnerable people in the household. So, yeah, we made the decision to close. A lot of local businesses have adapted and are doing takeaways and turning to shops and things, but it just wasn't an option for us. So, as I say, each business is going to have to sort of adapt in the way that they can to cope with this.
How do you feel about people heading to Padstow, heading to Cornwall in the next few weeks and months? Because people can travel now. They'll want to get out and about to tourist hotspots. I know that the Lake District and Cumbria Tourism have said, we're closed. We don't want an influx of people because, yes, we're a tourist destination, but we also have residents here that we need to keep safe. Are you a little bit worried about what's coming your way in the next couple of weeks? And I'm not just talking about whether you can open your business, but I'm talking about keeping the area safe.
Very much so. Cornwall is obviously, people have been locked away for several weeks. You can't blame people for wanting to get in the car and get somewhere beautiful. And obviously Cornwall's sort of high up on the list there. So you can't blame people for that. The problem we have in Cornwall is that we have one hospital. And as I understand it, only about 15 ICU beds. The hospital struggles and creaks every summer when we have a massive influx of tourists. And obviously with the current pressures at the moment, the last thing we need is to put additional pressures on our one hospital.
And I suppose if the government does give the green light for pubs and restaurants to open in the area, encourages people to stay. So again, it is a balancing act, but presumably they'd only do that if they thought it was safe to do so. How, as a pub, you mentioned that big outside area you have, but so many places in Cornwall are quaint little pubs, they're tiny little seaside restaurants. How are they going to get through the summer period if they are allowed to reopen? Because social distancing, 2 metres, that's a long way in between tables.
Exactly, and it's just the viability of it. And obviously you've then got to staff it, if you want to be responsible. And obviously this is a massive responsibility that you're embarking on, keeping people safe. It's got to be top priority. And in order to do that, you're going to have to need this space, and you're going to need the extra staff to be able to marshal it, which again makes the viability of it, sort of questionable.
And Natalie, just want to end on a positive note. I mean, we spoke to the chef Marcus Waring on Sky News a few days ago, and he said that he thought that I'm just trying to find the direct quote now, the industry was on the verge of collapse, the hospitality industry. Are you a bit more hopeful than that?
I think unfortunately, there are going to be businesses that just are not going to reopen, and that is the sad fact. And it's heartbreaking, because this industry is 7 days a week. It's heart and soul. It's not just a job. It's a livelihood. And people have invested their entire lives into making these businesses work. So it is really heartbreaking that will be the case. On the upside, for those businesses that can adapt and can just keep their heads above water, I think the future will be a huge boom, because obviously there's going to be an impact on international travel and people's sort of their confidence in travelling abroad or further afield. So I think in the long term, if we can just ride this storm, the future's very, very bright for the industry.
Oh, the rise of the staycation, of course. Natalie, thank you so much. Stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in the future when it is safe to do so down in Padstow. That's Natalie Moore there, owner of the Pickwick Inn pub. Good to see you today.